Hello and welcome to a genteel black hole, the home of my bookish rambles. My name's Ali, and my favourite bookish element is dramatic irony. This is the Bookish Elements tag. It was created by Sarah from My Granny era, and I was tagged by Mark from the Book Thing. So thanks very much to Sarah for creating this tag, and thanks a lot to Mark for tagging me. Question 1. How do you feel about foreshadowing or dropped hints? I think it depends how well they're done and how much they give away or how obvious it is. But when they're done well, I think they can be really compelling. And I think, I know I joked at the start about dramatic irony just for the sake of the pun, but there is something appealing about dramatic irony. The feeling of knowing more than the character knows. I really enjoy when you can kind of sense the direction the story is going before the characters do and can kind of see them possibly barreling towards disaster, or possibly, in the case of a romance, maybe barreling towards romance while they think they hate each other. So yeah, I think that foreshadowing and dropped hints are very effective tools in a writer's arsenal. You don't have tools in an arsenal, but I've said it now. I'm not re-recording it. Question 2. Bookmarks. What do you use? How do you feel about bending the corner down? I wouldn't dream of bending the corner down or dog-earing the corner, as I call it. I think it's something I used to do, like when I was young in my teens. I think my mum did that, and I kind of picked it up from her. But then after a while, I decided to break that generational curse. Yeah, no dog earing for me. Bookmarks, it varies for me. A lot of the time I use little sticky tabs, especially if I'm reading like a classic that's got notes in the back and I want to flick back and forth between two different sections of the book. I can have a tab where I am in the notes, and then tab for where I am in the main body of the text. Possibly a third tab if there's maybe a list of characters that's particularly useful to have quick access to. And yeah, if it's a fancy hardback that's got a ribbon, then I'll use the ribbon bookmark, obviously, or just whatever might be lying about handy, a receipt, or sometimes if I receive a gift and it's been delivered straight on and it's got like the gift receipt on it or the gift tag, I'll use the tag, because that kind of also gives me a reminder of who gave me the book, who I have to thank or blame. Question 3. Forgotten bookmarks. Have you ever found something strange in a book? I haven't found anything really bizarre from like secondhand books or anything like that. But I do occasionally find kind of family mementos from old books that have been in the family for a while. I remember we had a book of poems by John Hegley, who, if you're not familiar with John Hegley, if you like comedic poetry, then I would highly recommend him. But yeah, I think my mum gave her dad, my grandfather, a copy of this John Hegley book. And then when he died, mum, got it back. And then when mum died, I got it. And in that book, there is a photo of both my grandfathers at one of their birthday parties. I don't know whether it was being used as a bookmark or whether it was just randomly in there. I don't know whether it was my grandfather or my mum who put it in there, but yeah, I've left it in there because that's where I found it. Question 4, inscriptions and annotations. How do you feel about writing in a book, and how do you annotate if you do? I don't really annotate. If I do want to take a note of a bit in a book, then I tend to have my phone on hand and take a photo of the page, and then I can highlight it in the photo and possibly like highlight the text and paste it somewhere for safekeeping. And I can go through my phone photos and check what things I've taken photos of, what pages I found worth photographing. The funny thing is, I don't like writing in books myself, but I don't mind it if I find it in a book already. In fact, I quite enjoy that kind of connection with a previous reader. It's kind of like when you used to have the library stamps in the front of a library book, and you could see when it had last been taken out from the library. It has that same sort of feeling to me of like, oh, someone has read this book, this copy of this book before me, and found this bit worth underlining or highlighting. So yeah, I kind of enjoy that for sentimental reasons, and but the thought of actually being the one to write in the books makes me kind of feel weird. I don't like doing it. So yeah, I'm in a really eloquent mood today. Question 5. Introductions and footnotes. Do you read them or avoid? What makes a good introduction? Yeah, I do tend to read introductions and footnotes. I will often save the introduction for after I've read the book, just in case there's spoilers, which there often are, especially for classics. Unfortunately, there's sometimes also spoilers in the footnotes. I had an incident recently reading Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, where I had avoided the introduction to make sure not to spoil myself, and then the editor saw fit to put massive plot spoilers in the footnotes as well, which kind of irritated me. I don't know if it completely spoiled my enjoyment, but it certainly lessened the impact of those particular moments, because the way they were written, it was clear they were supposed to be surprising and shocking. And I knew they were coming because the footnotes warned me like hundreds of pages beforehand. As for what makes a good introduction, I think an introduction that distills the appeal of the book, hopefully without giving away too much about it, so you can still discover it for yourself by reading it, but something that kind of sets you up on the path to enjoying it, something that will prime you for enjoying it. If it needs some historical context or kind of literary context, then that is helpful as well. So yeah, something like that, and also just hopefully not kind of excusing the book for its foibles, even if it maybe acknowledges them. But yeah, mainly just try not to spoil too much, please. Question 6. Accessories. Do you use bookish accessories like a clip-on reading light, book sleeve, annotation materials, book stand, etc.? No, not really. I find that quite a lot of bookish accessories, while I can see what they're going for, I tend to find them more of a distraction than a help whenever I've tried to use them. So, yeah, I tend to prefer just book directly in hands and away we go. Anything else tends to be a distraction and sometimes an annoyance. Question 7. Art and illustrations. How do cover art and illustrations affect your reading experience? Cover art doesn't affect the experience that much because as I'm actually reading, it's facing away from me. Obviously, if I really love the cover art, then it feels like an extra treat to pick up the book. I have some beautiful Folio Society editions of like the Earthsea books, which I reread the third one earlier this month, and the cover art with the dragon on the front and the kind of the gold foil smoke coming from its nostrils. That's a beautiful book, and it has some lovely painted illustrations inside as well. So that I think that does enhance the experience, but it really depends on the style of the illustrations and whether they seem fitting for the book. I love the E.H. Shepard illustrations for Winnie the Pooh. They just feel perfectly of a piece with the book itself. And I think if I were to read an edition with new illustrations, or no illustrations at all, I would feel there was something lacking. So, yeah, I think that the illustrations, when they feel really fitting, can be a lovely enhancement. There is a risk, however, that it might take away from your personal vision of the book. For example, the original illustrations of Terry Pratchett's Discworld books, the illustrations by Josh Kirby on the covers. I know a lot of people have a soft spot for those, but I think they don't look like the characters that I picture when I read the books. And they're a bit too cartoony and grotesque for my liking. They're funny books, but there is also quite a strong, seriously satirical element to them that I think maybe the kind of cartoony cover art can kind of detract from. But again, at least those are just on the cover, so they are facing away from you when you're reading the actual book. So even then, it's not that big of a deal, really. But it is an extra treat to pick up a book that is really beautiful. Question 8. Format. Which format of books do you prefer? Hardback, paperback, audio, digital? Do you do different things for different situations? Yeah, I do different things for different situations. For bedtime reading, which I haven't been doing much recently, but I would either use an ebook on my phone or an audiobook. But during the day, I would prefer to read a physical book, or if not a physical book, then an ebook on an e-reader. But the difference between paperback and hardback is it's largely a question of how comfortable the book is to hold. And so the longer the book is, the less likely I am to want it in hardback, because it's going to be uncomfortably heavy, and seeing as I have muscular dystrophy, that's particularly of concern to me. But yeah, I suppose probably paperback is the format that I'm most likely to go for. But then for certain authors, I stick to ebook, just because if they're particularly prolific, like Agatha Christie, then I just don't have shelf space to collect Agatha Christie in paperback. So for her, I go for ebooks. But then some other times, like when I first started reading Terry Pratchett, I also went for ebooks because, again, I didn't have shelf space. But then I ended up loving Discworld so much that I bought more shelves to put the actual books on. So that's not going to happen again, because I have no other places to put more shelves. But yeah, I do. I guess I prefer paperbacks and hardbacks for particularly special books, as long as they're not too heavy. So I guess in order of preference, it would be paperback, hardback, ebook, audiobook. Audiobook right at the bottom. I hardly ever listen to them, but when I do, I sometimes do enjoy them. Yeah. And finally, question 9, tag some people. Well, I've already seen a lot of people that I would normally tag already doing this tag, so I'm not going to tag anyone directly, but if you would like to take part, then consider yourself tagged. And if you don't have your own channel but you'd like to share your answers to some or all of these questions, then yeah, I'm always happy to hear from you in the comments. Anyway, that's about it from me today. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you when I see you.